is your fantasy football therapy session. Welcome to Monday's Hangxiety. Week 14 is all but over. Playoffs are finally here. No more bye weeks, no more excuses. It's all about one thing: winning your championship. Let's vent those frustrations, shake off the bad beats, and focus on what matters now. The road to your fantasy glory. Let's get through the Hangxiety together. Welcome to the Week 14 edition of Monday's Hangxiety, or as I am calling it from now on, this week at least, a.k.a. the week of the backup running back. I am Gator J, and my faithful co-host, as always, Josh Hudson. How are we doing this morning?
I assume that I'm the faithful one because I'm the one that showed up this morning. Is that it?
Listen, just because you can read between the lines.
Shout out, Ryan. We love you. Feel better, buddy.
Feel better, sir. Feel better. How we doing this morning?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I love how you said the week of the backup running back. I swear this shit happens like every year in the fantasy playoffs. There's like 1 year where all the starters go down and everybody's like, oh, should I start this backup? Should I start this guy? They're going to take this role, blah, blah, blah. And you know, us fantasy analysts are like, yeah, I mean, it could work in your favor, but it's always that but, right? Yeah, a couple of them worked out really well. Charbonnet did great. Isaac Arendo did great, which we'll get into the San Francisco offense here shortly because I got to eat some crow on that one. But yeah, all good.
I'm wondering if I should have said it's the week of the backup running back. Because there was a couple backups to the backups that showed up too this week. Before we get too far into it, Josh, let's talk about Trophy Smack real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Our sister site, Women of Fantasy Football, great partnership we have with Trophy Smack. So you can head over to trophysmack.com/WOF. That's WOFF. You can find the direct links in the description of this video or podcast feed, wherever you're listening or watching. Any and all commissions we earn from this direct link, it's going towards our goal of helping expand upon and support women in sports that want to pursue careers in sports. So get all of your achievement-based needs at trophysmack.com/WOF. That's WOFF. Championship belts, championship rings, trophies, wall smack to decorate your office, hallways, kids' rooms. All these things are all available at trophysmack.com/WOF, WOFF. And the great part is all of it's customizable. So they have some default settings that you can buy, which is great. But if you're somebody that, wants to personalize something, cater it to a specific league or event, you can do that too. All of it's available at trophysmack.com/WOF. That's WOFF.
All right, Josh, let's dive in. What's the this? You want to read the scores off from yesterday?
Yeah, I can read the scores off. That's not a problem. All right. So let's go back to Thursday night. We've got the Lions clinch it with a late field goal to beat the Packers 34-31. Dolphins and Jets head to overtime. And God bless you, Jonnu Smith, baby. 32-26. Jonnu touchdown lifts the Dolphins. The Eagles hold on with a late Darius Slay batted pass to defeat the visiting Panthers 22-16. The Jaguars and the Titans in a snooze fest. The Jags take it 10-6. God, that game was boring. But the Vikings and Falcons made up for it. The Vikings double up the Falcons 42-21. Sam Darnold with not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 touchdown passes. And Kirk Cousins, well, he's been doing Kirk Cousins things this season, that's for sure. The Saints hold on, beat the Giants 14-11 on a missed Graham Gano field goal as time expires. The Steelers beat the Browns 27-14. The Bucks, yeah, they took care of business against the Raiders, 28-13. Aiden O'Connell left this game with a knee injury. The Raiders just have zero luck when it comes to the quarterback position this year. And Seahawks beat the Cardinals 30-18. Very different game from their first meeting a few weeks back. And in the game of the week so far, the Rams and the Bills, the Rams 44-42. We have some thoughts on this game a little bit later, but the Rams took care of business at home, and whew, man, that was a good one. 49ers did not what I thought they would do, 38-13 over the Bears. And the Chiefs are now 10-0 in one-score games, beating the Chargers 19-17 on a late field goal to win it.
There was some great games yesterday. The Chiefs game though, last night, the officiating is absolutely very, very, very questionable when it comes to the Chiefs.
I mean, every Chiefs game is very, very, very questionable officiating.
It's so bad.
Let's be real here.
Oh, bad. Yes, and I do, as you said, I want to double up on that. Thank you to Jonnu Smith for that late overtime TD. Kirko Chains is
he's dead to me.
Don't forget. Make sure you're hitting that like. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe on YouTube or whichever platform you are listening on. We do have a bunch on the show sheet to get to today. So if you want to get your question up to the top, make sure you're using that super chat feature. That will move you right to the front of the line. Birthday shots, rookies with big games yesterday. Isaiah Davis, 10 carries, 40 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 of 6 receiving for 27. Not that it's a huge game, but it's a rookie backup to the backup. But his backup, or the original backup, Braylon Allen, not too bad as well. 11 carries, 43 yards. Did not get in the end zone, but 4 of 5 receiving, 38 yards. Tyrone Tracy continues to be the lead bell cow back there in New York. 16 carries, 45 yards. Got into the end zone on the ground. 5 of 10 receiving, 38 yards there. Malik Neighbors, not a great day, but a solid 5 of 10, 79 yards. But he did get the 2-point conversion, so I added that. Brian Thomas, 8 of 12 receiving, 86 yards. I was out on Brian Thomas this week because of Mac Jones, but solid day for him. Rome Odunze showed up in a big way with the touchdowns this week, 4 of 5, 42 yards and 2. But the rookie of the day for me, somebody that I was really, really high on coming out of the draft and into this season, Jalen McMillan finally gets his NFL debut, I'm going to call it. I know he's been on the field a good bit, but he actually got 7 targets, caught 4 of them, 59 yards, and 2 touchdowns for him. Really, really, really good day for Jalen McMillan, even though Baker Mayfield is starting to piss me off and bring me the Jameis Winston vibes back in Tampa.
I was going to say, these turnovers and the interceptions are really getting annoying if you're a Bucs fan, because you need to be able to trust that your quarterback can do the thing. Well, 3 touchdown passes. That was one of my calls. One of my upsides on Wednesday was Baker throwing 3 or more. So I hit that. But the turnovers, what do you have? 2 interceptions and a fumble, I believe.
Yeah. But the problem is the one turnover was going into the half. You have the ball. You have 2 freaking timeouts in your pocket. You have the check down. I think it was like 3rd and 2 or something like that. You have the check down to Rachaad White, who, by the way, had a great day yesterday. But you have the check down to get you the first down. Even if you get the first down, he stays in bounds. You're at the 15-yard line. You still have 1 timeout. If you use it there, you don't turn the ball over. And at minimum, you're setting yourself up for 3 shots at the end zone. And at worst, a field goal opportunity. But yeah, so that's where I'm like, it's giving me the Jameis Winston vibes. I love Baker Mayfield and slinging it down the field, doing all that kind of good stuff. But we don't need another 30 for 30 season. And it's creeping up on that. Really,
I don't think he's on pace for that. Come on now.
Not on pace for it. But let me just bring this up real quick. To start the season, he had 10 and 2 when it came to it. Since he played New Orleans, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Then he went 3 games without throwing a pick, and then back-to-back games again with throwing interceptions. Right now, 28 and 13 when it comes to touchdown to interception.
And he still doesn't have the most INTs in the league.
I understand that. I understand that.
Fine.
I understand that. As a Bucks fan, though, we sit here and we're going to nitpick this one stat. So let me have my moment there, Josh. Thank you very much. Let's move on. It's just fun. Caesar over here in the chat saying, good morning, good morning, good morning. Josh Allen, his Josh Allen teams are comfortably in the playoffs.
As they should
Teams
be.
are fighting to get in. Went against Josh Allen, of course.
That sucks.
Ouch. Yeah, that's not.
I have one team. I'm well in the playoffs, and I win against the Josh Allen team. That Josh Allen team also had Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. So I'm down like 60 or 70 or something like that. But I have Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb to play tonight. So I'm like, I mean, I could still win.
I know not everybody's in the fishbowl, but I have to give Josh Allen props because 4:00 yesterday I was clearly below the cut line. Because of Josh Allen and his 55 points, I am now above the cut line and looking pretty decent. So let's hope that holds. Because if
Ryan
that's
and I are definitely not moving on to the quarterfinals.
I was just going to say
bye weeks absolutely destroyed us.
Yep.
So yeah, good times.
If I hold on and I get in, I will be the only one on this show that gets in. So yeah. we will cross our fingers that at least one of us gets in. And I'm crossing both fingers, so hoping that it's me. Jeff says he's up 25 points. He has Dowdle left. My opponent has Burrow and Higgins left. Do I get the W and get into the playoffs?
So I'm going to look at it this way. I'm going to say the 25 points is likely eaten up by Joe Burrow. So at this point, it's Rico Dowdle versus T. Higgins. It's going to be very close. It's really ultimately going to depend on who Burrow's going to favor. Is he going to favor Higgins? Is he going to favor Chase? Now, I actually do like Rico Dowdle this week, especially after the Bengals announced that defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins was going to be out for this game. A lot of their turnaround in their run defense the last like month and a half, 2 months of the season has been when Sheldon Rankins came back off the injured list because he missed, I believe, the first month of the season. And they were a terrible run defense at that point. Not having Sheldon Rankins is going to open up opportunities for Rico Dowdle, and the amount of snaps that he has been taking out of this Cowboys backfield, it's what's propping up his fantasy point totals, right? He had over 20 points last week. I don't know that you're going to get 20 points this week, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities, especially because they need to run the football to keep defenses honest and let Cooper Rush kind of do what Cooper Rush does. We're going to get to our Monday night preview a little bit later, but he only has one interception as a starter this season. Like, Cooper Rush is making good decisions with the football, but losing Zach Martin on that offensive line is going to be big. Jeff, it's going to be close. I'm rooting for you, but I think I'm going to side with Burrow and Higgins here.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. It's going to be close, and I'm also going to be on the Burrow Higgins side because of, two bites at the apple there. But if you are going to make it close, you're going to need Rico Dowdle to do what Rico Dowdle did last week: get in the end zone, have 100 yards, and a couple catches through the air. It's going to be tough, but it's Cincinnati. Cincinnati's known to give up some yardage. They did it. They've done it all year long.
I was going to say they give up 30 plus points pretty easily on defense. So
yep. So there is opportunity there. That's going to be a fun sweat, I think. As someone who started Baker, the sacks and picks really hurt. Buddy, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. Good morning, Wendy. Good morning. Good morning. Hanging out for dear life in SFB. Ooh, let's go. Let's go. Caesar, fun fact, I drafted and have rostered the Bills defense the entire year. Only started them 1 week, and it was
this. Yeah, that sounds like week 14 luck right there. Yeah.
Ouch. That was fun. That was fun. Let's talk about the unnecessary shop rumplements. The key injuries of the week. Aiden O'Connell goes down with a knee. Derek Carr, hand, feared to be broken. It's his non-throwing hand. Isaiah Garendo goes down. Sounds like it's an ankle issue.
foot, I believe, is what.
Is it a sprained foot? Okay. Jonathan Brooks, man, the guy has no luck. Finally gets in the lineup and goes down on a non-contact knee injury there. And then Bucky Irving. I was telling Josh before, I'm surprised they even played him this week, but he went out in I believe it was the second half sometime, right?
Yeah, it was right before the end of the first half.
Yeah. I'm surprised they played him at all this week. Wasn't going to be a Bucky Irving game with his back issues that he had from the prior week. But it is what it is. So
the Raiders have had some really bad luck at quarterback, but I'll tell you what, this is probably the best thing for him, because right now with the Jaguars win, the Raiders and the Giants are sitting at 1-2 in the NFL draft. Both of those teams need a quarterback. That's ultimately where this draft needs to end for these two teams. Like, take your pick of Sanders, of Cam Ward, maybe Drew Allar from Penn State creeps into that conversation. There's going to be teams that obviously need a quarterback. Those two top of the list. I don't know what's going to happen with Antonio Pierce. Maybe he survives the season. Maybe he doesn't. But Aiden O'Connell has the ability to win games with his arm. Desmond Ridder does not. So this is the best case scenario for the Raiders, as sad as that is. And Aiden O'Connell, I like you as a player. You're fun to watch. Get well soon. Definitely don't wish injury on anybody. But this really is the best thing for the Raiders right now is trotting out Desmond Ridder to ensure that they get a top 2 pick in the NFL draft.
So what you're saying is Desmond Ridder is not winning any games.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
That was a long-winded way to say Desmond Ridder is no good at quarterback. Let's talk about the shots of espresso, the performances that got our juices flowing, Josh, and I'll let you lead this one off since you're the only one here today.
I mean, it's Josh Allen straight up. I mean, dude was freaking Superman against the Rams. He was QB1 on the week, 51.9 fantasy points. Like, that is honestly I was going to say Jamar Chase has had a couple of 50-point games, or at least one this year. But regardless, 342 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 0 INTs. And then tax on another 82 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. I believe 2 of those rushing touchdowns were like 1-yarders. I was like, oh, look at that. You're talking like Jalen Hurts here with the short rushing touchdowns. Okay, I see what you're doing. Obviously, it was all for naught. The Bills ended up losing this game by 2. But this is what really good quarterbacks do, right? They play Superman and they keep your team competitive. They keep you in the running to get that win. The back end of this Bills defense is not great. They're very young. They're inexperienced. They don't have a lot of savvy veterans the way that they have in the past. And they've relied on being able to get pressure on quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford gets rid of the football probably quicker than anybody in the league. That's one of his staples. That's what he's always been, really throughout his entire career. And they just could not generate any pressure or rely, consistent pressure on Stafford. That put their defense in a hole, and that's ultimately what allowed and really forced Josh Allen to be like, look, I got to go do this myself. Man, it was fun to watch. I'll tell you that. 6 touchdowns, no turnovers. Whew.
Yeah. I'll just add this right here. Josh Allen is the first player in NFL history to have 3 passing and 3 rushing touchdowns in a game. So just wanted to add that little nugget on there. I did have that for later in the show, but since Josh Allen is the Superman that he is, may as well go ahead and bring that up right away. I normally don't jump in, but since Ryan's not here, I will go ahead and add this. Joshua Metellus and Cameron Byram, the White Chick celebration. If you didn't see that, go check that out after I believe it was Metellus getting the interception there. It was absolute classic. And what's crazy is a lot of people they did see it, had no idea what the hell that was from. So I just thought that had to be added to the show somehow, some way, because it was classic. And great job by them doing it in full pads, by the way. They didn't strip off any pads. They were doing the flips, the kicks, and it was great. It was great TV. Great TV. Josh, who's your next one?
My next one, I'm going to because Ryan's not here, I'm kind of encompassing like full scope so I can talk about a few players here.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to give a shout out to the Vikings passing offense. I mentioned in the score recap that Sam Darnold had 5 touchdown passes. He basically told the Minnesota fandom, you made the right choice by not paying Kirk Cousins $180 million. 347 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. He finishes this week as the QB2 with 34.6 fantasy points. But more to the point, he had to throw those to somebody. Jordan Addison, who I was very high on this week, but I wasn't this high on him this week. 12 targets for Jordan Addison, catching 8 of them for 133 yards and 3 touchdowns. And just to throw more into the fire here, Justin Jefferson said, I haven't caught a touchdown since October. Give me some of this love, homie. 7 targets, 132 receiving yards on catching all 7 of those targets, and 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson finally getting into the end zone. This was a masterclass in how to operate a passing offense. In my opinion, there may be better coaching candidates, but if Kevin O'Connell is not the coach of the year, I will be floored. Like, I know how great Dan Campbell has been, what he's meant to this team over and really the city since he took over as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. But Kevin O'Connell took a bust of a first-round pick and made him a legitimate starting quarterback on a probably, I don't want to say like a veteran minimum, but a pretty low-end QB salary at that.
Mm-hmm.
And just said, look, we got weapons. Everything's in place. Go do what you do. Here's how to play the quarterback position. You tell me that's not coach of the year material.
Yeah, and Sam Darnold is fixing to get paid again.
100% he's going to get paid.
Whether that's by the Vikings or anybody else. I mean, do you think the Jets or even possibly Carolina are sitting there going, how did we fuck this up?
The Jets probably, because I mean, it's the Jets. They fuck everything up. Fun fact, Aaron Rodgers now has the lowest career winning percentage among quarterbacks in New York Jets football history.
I was actually,
thanks to Joe Zolo for that.
I was gonna say I actually had that note put in there, and then I was like, no, I'm taking that off because that's definitely going to be for Wednesday for Joe to have his a victory lap of the Jets quarterback carousel, I guess. The perils that are. You got one more for us?
Yeah. Let's talk about the 49ers offense, because I've been shitting on them literally all week and telling everybody that I want nothing to do with this 49ers offense if Trent Williams does not play at left tackle. Well, Trent Williams was ruled out, and every single start-sit question that we had on Saturday that involved Juwan Jennings, that involved Isaac Guerrero, I'd say probably 95% of them I pivoted away from the 49ers players. The one caveat that I did say was that while the Bears defense does have some talent and they have played well in spurts, I was a little worried that we would see a similar situation that happened with the New York Jets defense the moment that they fired their head coach, because their head coach is very defensive oriented. Well, when the Bears decided to fire Matt Eberflus, their defense just went with them because they gave up 38 points to a Trent Williams-less offense. Brock Purdy finished as the QB5 with 22.1 fantasy points, 325 passing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Isaac Guerrero, yes, he got hurt in the fourth quarter, still compiled 128 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Juwan Jennings, a very frequent asked question. 8 targets, 7 catches, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. George Kittle, we all knew we were starting George Kittle. 6 targets, 6 receptions, 151 yards. Hats off to this offense. They did their thing. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I fucked up. I'll eat my crow. It is what it is. But I will say, for everybody that wanted to start Deebo Samuel, I was right about sitting him.
The one that was exciting to me, honestly, was once Isaiah Guerrero went down, Patrick Taylor stepped in and did not miss a beat. Ended up in the end zone. I mean, he only had 7 carries for 25 yards, but he did get in the end zone. It just, for some reason, we talked about this Saturday with this offense, and you brought it up just a minute ago with not having Trent Williams there. We were both kind of questionable on this running back room, and it seems like it doesn't matter which running back it is right now.
Well, but I mean, that's the state of the Kyle Shanahan system. Like, they put running backs in this system that can succeed. I mean, you can go all the way back to Terrell Davis. He was a late round draft pick. Nobody paid him any mind. He comes in Mike Shanahan's system and is a freaking Hall of Famer. You know, if he's in any other system, we're probably not talking about Terrell Davis as a Hall of Famer. Call a spade a spade. It is what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not to say that Terrell Davis didn't have talent, but your offensive scheme needs to be able to fit and build upon people's strengths. Isaac Arendo was always a good fit for this Kyle Shanahan system, right? He showed why, plain and simple. There are some players that don't take to it, and that's okay. Like, it is what it is. But Kyle Shanahan, more often than not, doesn't miss on running backs because he knows exactly what he's looking for to get the best out of a player and out of his system.
Yeah, the one that I will add to this topic here is Puka Nacua. And really, this whole game was a juice fest. You brought up about Josh Allen, but Puka Nacua, 5 carries, 16 yards and a touchdown, 12 of 14 through the air, 162 and another tutty. He joined Randy Moss and Jerry Rice as the only receivers with 5 games of 150 plus scrimmage yards in their first 2 seasons in the NFL. Remember, he missed 5 full games this year and parts of 2 others. Across the last 7, since he returned from the injury, he's been targeted 13 times in 3 games and 4 games with over 100 yards and 4 scores. Over 700 yards already this season. Again, like I said, he missed 5 full games. But my question, Josh, because the playoffs are starting and there's going to be some that are not, or they're already looking towards 2025, did Puka Nacua just secured himself in at least, at minimum, wide receiver 3 going into next year?
I don't know that I would go that high. I think he was my wide receiver 6 preseason. With all the stars that align in a way that they should, I think I'd still kind of put him in that like 5 to 7 range. And again, it's no slight to Puka Nacua. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. But I mean, you're dealing with a 36-year-old quarterback, soon to be 37-year-old quarterback. We've seen how bad Kirk Cousins has looked this year. We've seen how Aaron Rodgers has fallen off a cliff. Like, older quarterbacks, they're ticking time bombs, plain and simple, right? And Sean McVay really, and the Rams as a whole, they haven't looked to invest too much into, stockpiling quarterback options behind him, or at least trying to find a good one anyway. They're taking dart throws on some of these late round guys like Stetson Bennett, who, missed all of last year because of, some personal issues that he was going through. So like there's a lot up in the air. And so let's play the game. If Matthew Stafford isn't the quarterback, do you want anything to do with Puka Nacua as the top 3 option? I don't. CeeDee Lamb has at least still been producing with Cooper Rush at quarterback, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, yes, Joe Burrow's had some injury issues. You're not batting an eye when it comes to Jamar Chase, right? Same thing with CeeDee Lamb. Tua went out. Tyreek Hill obviously took a huge downswing. So like, maybe there's a lot of levels that I don't love looking at, what can happen if so-and-so goes down, but I'm still going to take Justin Jefferson over him. I'm still going to take, Jamar Chase over him. In a perfect world, I'm still taking CeeDee Lamb over him. Drake London's been great, even with a bad Kirk Cousins. What's going to happen with the Jets and Garrett Wilson? Do they move off of Devontae Adams? Or are they stuck with him? Who's going to be their quarterback? Terry McLaurin's been fantastic. With Jayden Daniels, you get another year of him. Maybe he continues to be that top option. I think there's a lot that can still shake out, but that's why I think right now I would put him more comfortably in that 5 to 7 range versus top 3.
And that's fair. I going, overreaction Monday kind of a thing here.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
So, but
it's all, and I think those are always topics of conversation 100%. Like, especially if you're in dynasty leagues, right? Where a lot of dynasty leagues do not have trade deadlines. If there's somebody that is out of the race, you're going through and you're evaluating your roster, right? You're looking at every single piece and saying, is this player going to help me contend next year? Are they 2 to 3 years away? How can they help me build going forward? There's all those types of things, If you're a contender, what do you have available to go get somebody like Puka Nacua? How do they fit in your roster, not just to end this year, but also for 2025 and 2026? All those questions are valid.
Yeah, very, very fair. All right, let's get to some of these chat questions as they are blowing up over here. George, Victory Monday went from 9th to clinching the 3rd seed, going up against the team with the highest points for round 1 in the playoffs.
All right, we're going to help you take them down, George.
That's right. Then he comes right back, says, genuine question, am I playing Amon-Ra over Jennings moving forward? Jennings seems to be much, much better.
I've had this debate with Amon-Ra for most of this season. Excuse me. The high upside games are few and far between because this offense is just absolutely firing on all cylinders, and it has so much to do with Sonic and Knuckles, right? It's Jahmyr Gibbs, it's David Montgomery. They're controlling games, they're controlling the line of scrimmage. So Amon-Ra feels more just like a safety blanket versus the 10 plus touchdown option that he's been throughout much of the early portion of his career. It's not to say that Amon-Ra is not a good wide receiver. He is. But you want these, top 2, top 3, top 5 weeks somewhat consistently to really help buoy your fantasy rosters. Amon-Ra really hasn't been that this year. Am I ready to sit him for Juwan Jennings? No. Because this was just an advantageous matchup that the 49ers were able to say, hey, this Bears defense is in turmoil and they kind of suck. So we're just going to do what we do. I do love the fact that Juwan Jennings has really slid right into that Brandon Ayuk role and taken reins of being that wide receiver 1 in this offense. Because as I've been saying for years, Deebo Samuel, while he's a great playmaker, he is not a refined wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And if you're not a refined wide receiver, you're not going to be able to break away from top coverages that defenses throw at you. He needs to be schemed open. Juwan Jennings does not. Juwan Jennings, the way that he operates is as a traditional wide receiver, and he has the trust of Brock Purdy. So there's always going to be upside with Juwan Jennings. In an ideal world, you're starting both of these guys. You're starting Amon-Ra and you're starting Jennings, whether it's as a wide receiver 2 or as a flex option, plain and simple.
Yeah, there's lots of questions to be asked and answered about the way San Francisco has handled their cap stuff. But Angie's in the chat saying good morning. Matt agreeing we start Amon-Ra for sure.
Not just this week, but most weeks.
Most weeks. Yeah. George, he thinks that Josh Allen broke the.
I was actually trying to look at that, but then I got caught up answering another thing, and I was like, I'll have to look at that a little bit later. But
yeah, you have to come back to that, and then of course we will talk about this a little bit more in depth in a little bit. But George says the Eagles defense ranked number 1 heading into the week, and they looked mediocre against the Panthers outside of that last drive.
I mean, did they look mediocre?
They played
Panthers
down.
Only scored 16 points. Like, at the end of the day, you don't have to look like an elite defense against a bad offense. Let's be real here. I was down on Chuba Hubbard this week simply because, the Eagles' rush defense has been good. But anytime one player is going to get the bulk of the carries, which became the case after Jonathan Brooks got hurt, Rasheem Blackshear, their RB3, also left this game with an injury. So Chuba Hubbard was the only one left. He was going to see 90% of the workload at that point. You're bound to break through and catch a run here and there, right? Yes, there were some over pursuit issues. At the end of the day, Bryce Young has started to ascend. He's making much better decisions at the quarterback position. If you're a Panthers fan, if you're a Bryce Young fan, you're happy about this. He played well against a really good defense, plain and simple. I don't think that, I'm not looking too worried about, number one defense looking mediocre against a bad team. I've been saying it all week. This was a trap game for the Eagles, straight up. I was truthfully not expecting them to, come out of this with a win. Luckily they did. And there's more issues to be had, but the issues aren't on defense. They're on offense. And then to George's point about old man Thielen cooking those corners, Adam Thielen plays well against the Eagles. I don't know why, but he does. It's just his play style, right? He's not a traditional, wide receiver one, but he's going to find the pieces of the zone where he can fit in and make plays. But if you look, there was one of those, it was a 4th and 2. He caught a lucky bounce for a first down in the red zone. Some of these moves, okay, Quinyon Mitchell was still shutting everybody down that's going against him. The batted pass from Darius Slay, he's just fitting into the pockets of the zone. That's what Adam Thielen has done so well throughout his entire career. So I'm not really shocked that he had a decent day, but he wasn't like a world beater by any means. And at the end of the day, that's not what we were going to give up anyway.
I'm glad you brought up Quinyon Mitchell there because I know you saw it yesterday, but I want to bring it to everybody's attention.
I'm buying that hoodie.
That hoodie. that
Quinyanamo Bay, baby.
That hoodie that he wore to the stadium yesterday was absolute gold. Absolute gold. George says you worried about Garindo's foot injury for Thursday night.
Oh, 100%. Anytime you're dealing with any injury of any kind, whether it's, knee, foot, back, hip, head, whatever, and you're coming on a short week, don't feel comfortable about it, plain and simple. Create a backup plan, look to pick up Patrick Taylor on waivers. Yeah, I'm not loving the idea of Isaac Garendo on a Thursday night with a foot injury.
Well, the nice thing, too, is you don't have to worry about a bye week by anybody next week. So
correct,
hopefully Garendo was a fill-in anyway, and you're able to get back to your normal normally scheduled programming when it comes to setting your lineups there.
Yeah,
favorite part of yesterday was having Njoku and Tracy each score touchdowns in the fourth quarter at the same time. That happened a couple times yesterday with a couple of my teams. I was like, damn, I'm down. All of a sudden I got points from two different players at the same time there. Steve, would you trade Tyreek for a 25 mid to late first, half-point PPR? My replacements would be Tillman, Coker, Sincere McCormick, guessing Alex Pierce, and Andre Yoshivash.
Honestly, if I can get a first of any kind for Tyreek Hill in Dynasty, I'm doing it. You're more of a Dynasty guy than me, but I mean, it also depends on the state of my roster too. Like if I'm a contender, I'm probably not making this trade because as we'll get to a little bit later, I love Tyreek's playoff schedule and he can help you win. But if he's wasting away on a rebuilding team, you take whatever you can get, and getting a first is chef's kiss.
Yeah, the question I have here though is just by looking at what your replacements are, that tells me your team is not necessarily in the championship hunt right now. Trading.
Yeah, I mean, if those are your wide receivers, you're rebuilding, plain and simple. Oh, he is a contender.
He is a contender this year.
Then you need Tyreek.
Yeah, if you're a contender this year, you're going to need Tyreek because, like Josh just brought up, the playoff matchup is juicy as it can be. And Miami, in order to get in the playoffs, he's going to have to throw the ball down the field, and Tyreek's going to be a pivotal point there. I would not be making this trade especially if you're a contender in any way, shape, or form this year. Remember, you win your league 1 year, that pays for at least 2. So don't trade your winnings for future assets then we don't know what we're getting anyway in a draft.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest misconception when it comes to dynasty leagues. It's like always keep your team as young as possible, accumulate all the draft picks as possible. Like, yes, you want to be able to set yourself up for the future, but the name of the game is winning, plain and simple. Like, if you're not winning, what the fuck is the point?
Yeah, I 100% agree there. Craig says, Josh, good to see y'all. I learned that I should check my injury report like noon or so. I didn't realize Pickens was going to be out. He's not on IR, but he was out. But it was good to see Kittle, as always, do well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on Saturday. It's a hamstring, right? Anytime hamstrings are involved, they're sticky, plain and simple. They act up, they re-aggravate. Sometimes it's better just to put it on ice. Now, I will say that once he was announced out, we were definitely getting some questions about, would you start Calvin Austin? Mike Williams was always going to slide into that role. But Austin, I think, only had 1 reception for 4 yards. Like, it wasn't anything great. But, they got other people involved. Pat Freiermuth caught a touchdown. Plain and simple, the Browns are just a hot mess. And Jameis is just doing whatever he can to keep fantasy managers happy. That's kind of the way that I'm looking at him.
Yeah, I saw a weird stat, and this may be the one that stuck with me, was that once outside of Pickens, there was only 4 players that received a target yesterday for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Not good, Bob. Not good.
No.
Not good. Not good at all. We got a super chat right here from Jose. He wants to know, can he trust A.J. Brown next week?
Against the Steelers, yes. The Steelers' passing defense does not scare me one bit. I remember seeing yesterday, Jay, somebody had asked a question about Jerry Jeudy, and you were like, not against Joey Porter Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Porter Jr. is not as good as people think, in all honesty. He works better in man coverage, but it's just because he's very handsy. He grabs a lot. He draws a lot of penalties, and he's not going to be able to do that against A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has like 30 pounds on him. And if the Eagles are able to fix their passing attack, which, again, I think they should, these are the ebbs and flows of this offense. They didn't need to throw the ball a ton. That's why Jalen Hurts only had 108 passing yards, only had 21 pass attempts. Now, you want to talk about a good corner? That's J.C. Horn, who the Panthers have. That's why I wasn't super high on A.J. Brown this week. That's why I was higher on Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, once again, averaged over 6 yards a carry. He just wasn't involved in the passing game as much as I thought he would be, but that's neither here nor there. A.J. Brown's going to be fine. You're still trotting him out week in and week out. Anytime you're dealing with, stud wide receivers, or really any wide receivers, you're always going to have ebbs and flows to the performances. So I'm not worrying too much about this. It's okay, Jose. You can trot him out next week. If he drops a dud, hats off to the Steelers. Like, there's not really anything else you can do about it at that point. Like, you want to trust your studs. And this isn't I'm not worried too much about the fact that one game he had 4 targets. Every single time that you see A.J. Brown with a low target total and he says something in the media after the fact, he bounces back for like 10, 12 targets and then has a bomb-ass game, because that's what teams do. They keep their star players happy. You're not paying A.J. Brown $32 million a year to see 4 targets a game, plain and simple.
Yeah, we were on the show Saturday for Starts at Different Day, and we were both on that train that this was not going to be a huge passing game. And I mean, Devontae Smith did show up very well, but like you said, J.C. Horn is a absolute stud.
I mean, did Devonta Smith really show up well? Like, yes, he led the team in targets with 6, and he caught the touchdown. Take that touchdown away, he had 37 yards.
Correct, but what I'm saying is when we didn't expect Devontae Smith to do a damn thing.
Yeah, but he got about as many targets as I thought he would get. It was saved by a touchdown.
Of course it was. Of course.
Yeah.
That's the way a lot of the fantasy production is saved. But
and it was still only 13 fantasy points. That's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't a great day.
No, but anyway, it wasn't a great day for the passing of Philly at all. Next week, I think it gets a little bit better. I'm not going to worry about it. All right, Josh, there's a few more in here, but I do want to get to the show sheet. So if you still have questions in there, I've got you starred. We will get to you. Let's get to the migraine. Worse than a hangover, the underwhelming performance of the week, Josh. And we kind of hit on this a minute ago. So who's your first one?
It's the Eagles passing attack. look, you're paying Jalen Hurts a lot of money. You're paying A.J. Brown a lot of money. You're paying Devonta Smith a lot of money. 21 pass attempts. Straight up. That's it. In a game that was closer than it needed to be. Yes, your defense played well. The biggest issue with this Eagles offense as a whole, they start games very slow. They're not coming out of the gates, firing on all cylinders, acting like an offense that is really good at playing football. Jalen Hurts has managed to tick down the amount of turnovers that we saw last year. Like, he was tied with the league lead in interceptions with Josh Allen. And it's crazy. Look at how great both of them played last year. Look how great both of them are playing this year and cutting down the turnovers, right? They're playing really well. They're playing good football. They're managing games well. We know what Jalen Hurts is capable of doing throwing the football. We have seen it. He went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, right? The potential is there. The problem is that they know how great Saquon Barkley is, and they're just saying, we don't need to throw the football. And ultimately what that does when you're not balancing your offense, when you don't use one tool in the shed, it gets a little rusty, plain and simple. That's why you have these off-target throws. That's why you have these low A-dot pass attempts. This is a pass funnel offense. It's A.J. Brown, it's Devonta Smith, and it's the field. Their top 3 targets yesterday against Carolina, 6 targets for Devonta Smith, 4 targets for A.J. Brown, 3 targets for Grant Calcaterra. Not a single individual after those 3 had more than 7 receiving yards. That is not how you're going to beat teams like the Detroit Lions, who can put up points playing sandball. Like, it's just not going to happen. So for as good as this defense is, the offense needs to be able to match it. This offense is good. We know how good they are because we've got years of evidence of it. Kellen Moore needs to figure out how to score points quickly that don't involve beating down defenses with Saquon Barkley in the second half. Because at a certain point, defenses are going to be able to stop Saquon. And then it becomes, make Jalen Hurts beat us. And right now, this year, Jalen Hurts hasn't had to beat anybody. He hasn't really beaten anybody since the first 10 games of last season. But again, my point, we've seen Jalen Hurts beat teams. Kellen Moore needs to be able to embrace that and start getting this offense going.
And I'm going to bring this up because it's right as you said it. Fizzle jumps in. He says the Eagles are doing exactly what they did last year, just with Barkley on the roster, winning games, starting slow, scrapping by on a breezy schedule. They ain't beating the Lions or Vikings like this in the playoffs.
I think they can beat the Vikings. I don't think they can beat the Lions. I'm being straight up honest. The Lions offense right now is just firing on all cylinders. Vic Fangio would have to put together a A++ game plan to beat Ben Johnson, which I'm not saying he can't do because we've seen it, but the Lions defense is catching up as well. Like they've navigated so many injuries on defense and they're still playing well, but they just gave up 31 points to the Packers. Let's be honest here. Like, if we get our offense going, we can beat the Lions. But that's a big if right now because Kellen Moore is not scheming the passing game to its potential.
Well, I mean, let's the Lions will allow points. They've allowed points all year long, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's just they're able to put points up as well. So then it becomes who's got the defense that can stop the Lions offense. But that's a conversation for another day because the Bucs are the only team to still.
Well, I mean, look at the Super Bowl matchup from like 10 years ago when, the high-powered Broncos played the best defense in the league, the Seattle Seahawks, and the defense absolutely shut down the offense. Peyton Manning and the Broncos offense scored like 7 points, right? Like, I'm not saying this is the case, like this would be what would play out, but there's that upside. There's that potential. Like losing Brandon Graham is huge for our defense straight up. Like that hurts. Like that, not only is that a productive player, but that's a strong defensive end that knows how to, produce. Like He's made the greatest defensive play in Eagles history. Strip sack fumble of Tom Brady in the Super Bowl that helped us win it, right? Like, that's how important Brandon Graham is to this defense. So now we have to go through and navigate that loss the same way that the Lions had to go through and navigate the loss of Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, what a rough loss there. My guy, it's Jayden Reed. It's Jayden Reed. It's TD or bust for him. Snap share over the 7 games this year. He's had a 59% or less snap share. And when it comes to targets, he's only had 1 game where he's had 6 or more targets. He is the third option at best on this team, and he's really only touching the field when the 3 wide receiver sets.
And this was something that I talked about in the offseason when Ryan and I were doing our projections and our ranking shows and things like that. Like, both of us were extremely high on Jayden Reed when we did our first round of projections. I think I had Jayden Reed as a top 15 wide receiver. And then I really started to dive into it. They do for Jayden Reed the same thing that the 49ers do for Deebo Samuel. The difference is the 49ers don't have the depth at wide receiver that the Packers do. Jayden Reed is a slot wide receiver. They will take him off the field when they run 12 personnel, when they run additional 2 wide receiver sets, right? And that's why he only played, 30-something% of the snaps on Thursday? Like, it was ridiculously low. He does not know how to operate as an outside receiver. Or if he does, Matt LaFleur and the Packers just say, well, we got better options. Because they're outside receivers, a la Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. They're bigger. They're taller. They know how to run block. So when you're going to these 2 wide receiver sets, the 2 tight end sets, you need play. Those are the formations that the Packers are going to run out of. And the way that they've been using Josh Jacobs, especially the last month and a half, 2 months of the season, this team wants to run the football. Jayden Reed's not built as a run blocker. They're not going to put him on the field. That was my biggest reason why I was down on Tank Dell, because Tank Dell comes off the field when they run the football in Houston. The difference is Jayden Reed knows how to score touchdowns. So he can operate with this limited target share and still provide us fantasy gold, right? But it's going to be few and far between. Like you said, it's touchdown or bust.
Yeah, it's not great. And it just dawned on me when I looked over at it that Romeo Doubs wasn't even in the game this week.
He was out. Yeah, they win a lot of Dontavian Wicks and Christian Watson as a result.
So that just tells me he's not even the third option. He's now the 4th option. And that's not including Tucker Kraft or Josh Jacobs, who knows how to catch touchdowns evidently too. Yeah. So get back over to the chat real quick before we get into the next segment. We'll say good morning to you, Faith. Good morning. Good morning. Craig says, looks like Devontae Smith did well as much as A.J. Brown this week.
No,
we just hit on that. I hate to bring this up, but Waddle looked kind of good on my bench. Caesar, you should have watched me on Saturday until Josh kicked me off the stream, because I did call for a good Jalen Waddle game this week, and I was correct, Josh.
No, Waddle did well. He had 20.9 fantasy points, I think. Look, Tua's slinging it, right? The difference has been now, where they were only throwing to running backs and tight ends last month, they're finally getting the wide receivers involved and realizing, hey, we pay these guys all this money. Maybe we should actually throw them the fucking football. I don't think Jonnu Smith had a reception until overtime in this game.
It was. I was stressing that one, by the way.
Yeah. So, and of course, they run the same play 3 times, and then he catches 3 passes and a touchdown. So maybe it's getting to a point where we can start, finally feel comfortable playing Jalen Waddle, which, again, when I get to our next segment, that's going to be good for the fantasy playoffs. There is a lot of good matchups for the Miami passing attack over these next 3 weeks.
Yep. Austin says Chase Brown needs to stay under 32 points tonight, and he makes the playoffs. Does he do it?
I think that is very viable. I honestly don't think that Chase Brown has a single game this season where he scored that many points. Let me actually look that up.
Yeah, I'm just going to peek at it as well myself. I don't know why it's not loading, but whatever.
His highest scoring output this season is 26.7. Yes, it is an advantageous matchup against the porous Cowboys run defense. Sorry about your luck, Fizzle. But 32, I think he stays under.
Yeah, I don't think he gets 32, but I think he gets close to 26, somewhere in that range. Austin says literally had to go through Jamar Chase, who scored a 50. Saquon Barkley scored 45 against him. And then it was he thought he was safe, but he didn't play Jerry Jeudy last week. Well, guess who played Josh Allen this week?
Dude, that is some shit luck, bro. That's like being the guy in your league or, girl in your league that, scores the most fantasy points and misses the playoffs because they allow the most fantasy points against.
Yep.
Like that. It's just the worst freaking luck. And every single time that happens to me, I'm like, my league needs median scoring, plain and simple, because I'm tired of going over. I need some wins to make me feel better.
Right. The oh man, I'm wondering if this is the same league that he has the Chase Brown question in, that he needs to stay under 32, and if that's the case, man, what a rough one. Austin, at the point, even if I make the playoffs, someone's bound to score 50 against me.
So Austin, this is what I need you to do: chime in on like Wednesday or Saturday. And just be like, look, I'm going against this person this week, so we can identify who the 40 burger is going to be, so we can prepare people.
Yes. Craig says, I do need Lamb to do all right today.
I mean, I think there's opportunity for it. The Bengals pass defense is pretty shitty. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, Cooper Rush he's played the position well. Like, he's managing games well. He's not making a ton of mistakes. There's opportunity there. So, yes, it could work for him. We'll see how it plays out. I think Rush is probably in line for about 250 passing yards, give or take. I think in theory, CeeDee Lamb should see at least 75 of that.
Yeah, Fizzle jumping in. He wants to bring up somebody. We have already talked about him, but I love his comment here. He's always getting slack about his love for Addison. But he proves him right. Jordan Addison is here. The boy can take off at the press of a button. I hope everybody is awake now.
Yeah, Jordan Addison's looking good. And that was the thing. It was never a question of talent. I mean, he was a first-round pick, and he has a nose for the end zone. He really does. He scored, I think it was 8 touchdowns last year, scored 3 this week. Like, there's so much opportunity. My biggest thing with the Vikings passing attack was always, Sam Darnold. Can Sam Darnold do what Kirk Cousins did and keep this passing offense afloat? Right now, he's doing it better than Kirk Cousins has in the last couple of years. Like, everybody's getting involved. Justin Jefferson's already over 1,000 yards. Addison missed some time earlier this season, but he's come on strong. Like, you're always going to have these boom weeks, some slightly down weeks because he's the number 2 option in that offense behind Justin Jefferson. But when this passing offense is working, Jordan Addison is a must start, plain and simple. And this was always a great matchup because Atlanta has one good corner. And even AJ Terrell hasn't played well. So as long as Addison can find the holes in the Falcon zone, he was bound to do well this week. That's why I loved Addison this week.
Yeah, I think you can go ahead and cut Justin Jefferson off your roster, Addison.
Oh, shut up.
No, that Sam Darnold is doing something that Kirk Cousins could never do, and that is move the pocket, extend the play. So yeah, I 100% with you there. One more here. What do you say about the Panthers? Thielen, for me, he's a very good schedule for the playoffs, and I think he is the team's wide receiver 1 right now for Jose.
Yeah, 100%. I was very much on board with you can just cut and release on Adam Thielen. But the way that the Panthers offense has started to figure itself out, Bryce Young he's refound that confidence that he lost. And Thielen is the best, he's the veteran of this receiving group, right? Finally come back off IR. You don't love the fact that he's 34 because he could just break down at any point. But the team needs him to keep their wide receiver room afloat because they have so many young pieces like Xavier Legette, who, made a couple decent plays, should have caught that touchdown on that final drive. But, those are mistakes that a rookie's going to make, right? And he's never been a high catch percent type of receiver, Leggett, anyway. So, he's going to make those types of drops. But, until he really starts to get a stranglehold on that offense, the team needs to rely on Adam Thielen. So with a favorable schedule, yeah, I think he's very much in the wide receiver 2 conversation the rest of the season.
Yep. And Bryce Young seems to trust him as well. So,
well, I mean, Bryce Young trusted him last year. Thielen had over 1,000 yards last year.
The morning mimosa, that early morning tingly feeling. What's on the horizon? Josh, let's start off with your guy.
Yeah, it's Tyreek Hill, as I mentioned.
Said Jaylen Waddle wrong.
Oh, shut up. Tell Jaylen Waddle to actually outscore Tyreek Hill, and we can have that conversation. But no, I mean, really, it's both of them, truthfully. But I'm gonna lean with Tyreek Hill. He is the wide receiver 1 on this team. But the next 3 matchups that the Dolphins have, they're at Houston versus San Francisco, at Cleveland. Houston, since week 9, has allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position. Cleveland is right there in the middle of the field. They're about 16th most. But again, Steelers didn't have their wide receiver 1 option, and they still scored 27 points on the Cleveland defense. The only thing that worries me about that week 17 game is that it's going to be in Cleveland. It's going to be cold. But Tua has shown that he can throw the football. Like, he threw it in Buffalo in those snowstorms or whatever. And, it's working just fine. It's just a matter of everything else in that offense not really working. But again, as I mentioned earlier, the tides seemingly are shifting, that they're finally starting to throw the football to the wide receiver position. Tyreek Hill, 3 of his last 4 games, he's been over 19 fantasy points. That is what we are looking for from Tyreek Hill. Right now, he's wide receiver 13 on the season. We know the downstretch that he had when Tua was on IR with a concussion problem. But he's starting to regain that, hey, I am Tyreek Hill and I know how to play football and I'm going to score a lot of fantasy points. This schedule right now is shaping up to be that. And I think San Francisco at the 3rd fewest is a bit of a mirage. That passing defense is not very good. You're muted, Gator.
I'm with you there. With the whole of the wide receivers there in Miami. It's going to look a lot better. I do worry about that week 17 matchup, like you said, about being up there in Cleveland. We didn't look great when they went to Green Bay on a Thursday night, and just it was ugly. But we shall see what's to come there. Zach Charbonnet just absolutely went off yesterday. We talked about this Saturday morning, depending on which one started. Zach Charbonnet gets the start, of course, with Ken Walker out. 38.3 fantasy points, 29 opportunities, 6.1 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. And it doesn't seem to matter which one. If one of these running backs is off the field, out of the game, the other one is going to see the full workload, of course, and they are a top 5 option going forward.
Yeah, 100%. Charbonnet looked the part. The Seattle run blocking has been very hit or miss, truthfully. But again, like when you see what Zach Charbonnet was able to do today, and you see what Ken Walker has been doing for, most of the season, really, it almost makes you think that maybe there's a vision problem with Walker, because if Charbonnet can hit those holes, why can't Ken Walker hit those holes? Charbonnet, I've always felt that has a lot of touchdown upside, and we've seen him steal some touchdowns here and there because he is a bigger back and he runs more physical, in my opinion. Whereas Ken Walker has that bigger play potential, which is why fantasy managers love Ken Walker. Both of them have a nose for the end zone, but this Seattle offense is really interesting. Geno is just not throwing touchdown passes at all. So they need to rely on the running game, right? Because without the running game, this offense is just done for. Geno has 14 passing touchdowns this year, like barely 1 per game. If they're not scoring touchdowns on the ground, Seattle's in trouble.
That's I don't like their playoff matchups as much.
It's a lot of division games, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Green Bay, Minnesota, and then at Chicago.
Oh, so no division matchups. Okay.
No division matchups until week 18. But they're home against Green Bay. Yes, they're home against Minnesota, so the 12s get involved. But that Week 17 matchup at Chicago, is juicy as it sounds, it's going to be cold. So hopefully,
that's what I'm saying. It should be
a lot of running. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of running there. I did also have Jalen McMillan, but I did hit on this guy earlier. Tampa has needed a wide receiver to step up since Chris Godwin's been out. And it looks like Jalen McMillan's finally doing that. He could be somebody that you might be talking about tomorrow with Ryan.
I want to bring this up from George since we were talking about Charbonnet. He mentions that we couldn't have had him trade Kenneth Walker at a better time for Devon Achane. Charbonnet looked great, and he'll say it again. The O-line blocks better for Charbonnet. Again, I don't necessarily know that it's the line blocks better. Maybe it's just a vision problem that Ken Walker just, for all the holes that he was hitting in his first couple of years this year, maybe it's some injuries that he's dealing with, and the confidence just isn't there, and it's a split-second decision-making later. But, yeah, I mean, look, Devon Achane's a dog, straight up. I mean, the way that they're using him in the passing game, it really does not matter what he offers on the ground, because it's all about the passing game there.
All right, we got a couple more of the chat questions we'll get to right here. Austin says if he makes the playoffs, he's got you. He will give you his lineup for next week.
That's the man right there. Appreciate you, Austin.
Jose says we have to worry about Jonnu Smith. Either he's still a strong tight end, or is he done?
No, he's still a strong tight end. I mean, they're still using him. Like I said, I mean, maybe the tides are shifting a little in the fact that, the running backs and the tight ends aren't the only options for this Miami passing attack. Yes, it does suck that Jonnu didn't really have a catch until overtime, but Jets, for all of the talk that their defense sucks, they do have strong pieces on that defense. So it hardly surprises me that they basically said, all right, we're going to take Jonnu Smith out of this game because he's been the one that's killed everybody over the last month, 6 weeks of the season, which opened things up for Tyreek and for Jalen Waddle, right? So I'm not too worried. Like Jonnu saved his day. Overtime, has a touchdown, 47 yards. But with the scope of the tight end landscape right now, yes, he's still a top 7 option.
Yeah, going back to what the playoff matchups we were talking about, right? You have Houston at Houston, San Francisco at Cleveland. Look at what he did in the snow against Green Bay. 10 of 11. Come on. Yep. Yeah, you're starting Jonnu Smith and it's basically a plug and forget, right? Start and forget. Yep. Don't even stress it. So Austin agrees, still strong. Usage and the targets are there. So yeah, that's what we are doing. The stat of the day entering yesterday, teams with at least 6 touchdowns and 0 giveaways. Hello, Bills. How are you? Were 245-0 in the Super Bowl era, including playoffs. They are now 245-1. The Bills have that lone loss.
I saw a stat. I think it was on the broadcast. I think this was the first game where 2 teams scored over 40 points and didn't have a single turnover.
No turnovers and no sacks.
I didn't know about the sacks part.
No turnovers, no sacks. It was crazy. It was very, very cool. Very, very cool stat that they put up there. All right, Josh, you are the only one that's got to chill the fuck out today. The bad or the good, merely a blip on the radar. What are you thinking here?
I got to bring up Aaron Rodgers because this stat absolutely floored me. Because for as great as Aaron Rodgers has been, bro, throw in the towel, man. You're done. Yesterday marked the first 300-yard passing game that Aaron Rodgers has had since week 14 of 2021. It's like 3 years to the day.
What?
Okay. If you really thought that a 40-year-old was going to save the Jets season, you need to schedule a checkup at your local physician's office. No team should be rushing to sign Aaron Rodgers once the Jets cut bait on this guy. He is done. He is more of a headache than anything. He cares only about the limelight, which is why he wanted to go to New York, because all the media is in New York. He's releasing a freaking documentary on Netflix in the middle of a goddamn football season when his team only has 3 wins. Ask yourself what this man really cares about. It's him. That's it. He doesn't give a shit about anything else. Cut bait. Done. I love the fact that it propelled both Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. That's great. Stop relying on Aaron Rodgers. Just stop. It ain't it.
Listen, as a Garrett Wilson manager, I was kind of I had no choice but to play him this week with the bye weeks, and I was pleasantly surprised until I went back and looked at it. There was a pass, Garrett Wilson on the sideline there, wide fucking open.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Rodgers just puts the ball out there. Garrett Wilson walks in. And instead,
vintage Rodgers drops that in a bucket and it's a touchdown.
Instead, it carries Garrett Wilson out of bounds. He catches the ball, but he goes directly out of bounds afterwards. And it was just heartbreak from there. That's been the epitome of Rodgers' season this year. Because if it's not the ayahuasca, it's the Netflix documentary. His priorities are exactly what you said they are. It's about, him and himself. And Robert Saleh, by Joe Douglas. By who's next?
It'll be him.
Should be him. All right, Josh, let's get into tonight's game over there. Monday Night Football. We are going to go through a couple of the underdog picks that we like. Make sure you are signing up with the code WOFF over there on Underdog. Claim your free pick and your first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Remember, that's sign up with the code WOFF. Claim your free pick and your first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Tonight's game, Cincinnati at Dallas. The spread is Cincinnati by 5.5, over under of 49.5. That is per ESPN bet. Josh, 8-8 now. Back to the 500 mark. I like that. What are you going with?
I'm taking the lower on Cooper Rush 0.5 INTs, and you get a little bit of juice on this. It's times 1.12. As I mentioned earlier, Cooper Rush only has 1 interception as the Cowboys starter this season, and over his last 2 games, he has not thrown a pick. The Bengals, as a defense, through 12 games, are tied for the 10th fewest interceptions with 7. I've said it before. This is not a good secondary. And sometimes you just take what's given to you. I don't even know why this is a juiced up prop, truthfully. Like, people just think because Cooper Rush is a backup that he's going to throw picks. Take the money. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I like that prop there. I also like the Cooper Kupp over 224.5 passing, I believe it is right now.
I was looking at that, or Cooper Rush, not Cooper Kupp. But I was looking at that one also.
224 yards passing too on this Bengals D. So
I think he only had like 194 last week, so it made me a little nervous. But and again, a lot of that just boils down to, with Sheldon Rankins out, I think they're going to want to run the football more. So that's why I think that they're maybe not going to throw too much. But we'll see how it plays out. That's why I like the INT prop a little bit more than the passing yard prop.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because it's going to be that's a lot easier one to hit for him, not throwing the interception. Mine this week is Chase Brown over higher than 72.5 rushing yards, averaging 80 yards per game over the past month. He's the elite of the elite when it comes to the running back room. 74 of 75 carries in that RB room over that stretch, and he gets the Cowboys, who allow the second most rushing yards per game. If you want to add one to that, go right ahead and grab you some. Let's go Micah Parsons, half of a sack. Joe Burrow's gotten sacked 30 times this year, 4 of them last week. So Micah Parsons for a half a sack as well. That is not on there, Josh. Don't try to take that when it doesn't hit and make my score look worse than it is.
I honestly would be more willing to take Overshawn for a sack versus Parsons, truthfully.
You could get both of them. Do both.
Also, Orlando Brown is out this week, so that's only going to make the Cowboys pass rush stronger.
So,
not that Orlando Brown was anything good, but still.
Caesar says if Rico Dowdle scores 2 touchdowns, he's going streaking. Okay, well, I guess you're safe there. Wait, is it 2 rushing touchdowns or just 2 touchdowns in general?
Yeah, it could be 2.
Yeah. Oh, let's talk. All right, Josh, let's get out of here. We did pretty good. 1 hour, 15 minutes into it. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, Ryan's waiver wire comes out on the website at clubfantasyffl.com. Directly after that at 11 a.m., Ryan and Josh get together and waiver wire for week 14. Are y'all doing that tomorrow morning, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir.
All right, and let's go. Tomorrow night, Trade Blocked with Dusty, Joel, and the Hoove, the Dynasty Trade Show. Wednesday evening, Cleat Dreams with the women of fantasy footballs, Renee and Kelly. Wednesday directly after that, or is it right before? I don't even remember anymore. You switch them around so much. No pun intended, with Joe, Josh, and Ryan. That is the weekly preview. Thursday morning, Oh Captain, My Captain, Josh and Austin get together for the DFS Showdown. And then Thursday night, guys, if you are not paying attention to what these young ladies are doing over on the Sneaky Flex, it is your fault. They have absolutely, as they've been saying, hashtag nailed it all year long. I mean,
5 of their 6 picks this week all scored over 13 fantasy points, and they had the RB3 on the week and the wide receiver 2 and the tight end 2.
Give the girls some love. Props to them for doing it. That is Thursday at 7:30. Directly after that at 8 p.m., myself and Joel get together for the Dynasty After Party. Friday morning, DFS Academy with Ryan and Austin. That is the DFS Cash and GPP preview for the weekend. And then, of course, Saturday morning, one of the biggest shows that we have on the platform right now, Start Sit Different Day with Joe and Josh going through all of your weekly Start Sit questions. And then, of course, Monday morning, it is right back here with me, Josh, and Ryan. Monday's Hangxiety at 11 a.m. Josh, anything left to add for the show today?
No. Get ready for what should be a high-scoring Monday Night Football game, which, of course, anytime you're in prime time, you love points, baby. I just want to see Bengals win because fuck the Cowboys.
I was going to say, I don't know how the NFL did what, hindsight being 2020, if they could have flexed the 4:00 game yesterday, Bills Rams, they would have flexed that and done the exact game tonight. That would have been so good. Make sure
that's the thing is, like, this game's going to be high scoring anyway, so I'm not that worried about it.
Yeah,
you're going to get a good game regardless of whether both these teams are out of contention, which technically the Cowboys are not. So
I don't know if it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be a good game, though. It's going to be a battle.
So I think 49.5 over under is low.
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, let's have fun with it then, right? Let's have fun with it. Go follow Josh over on the Twitter machine at the one Hudsonian with the number 1. Follow myself at Gator_J_. I had to change that Saturday because Josh got onto me. Did not like my handle anymore. Make sure you're following Club Fantasy FFL over there as well. Make sure you're following the Women of Fantasy Football, or what is it? Women of _FF. If I'm not mistaken, is that right?
Correct. Yep.
That is correct. All right, cool. So for Josh, for myself, we will see y'all next week.